Okay guys, I just wanted to do another quick update. Still forgotten where I left off with some of this stuff based on the holidays and everything right now. So I had already filmed a tiny bit of footage explaining some of the issues with these relays again. So I might edit some of that in with this same video here. But yeah, I just wanted to do an update again to explain what's going on and some of the other diagnosis of everything. So of course the main problem I still have to resolve with this Teac reel-to-reel is, you know, those relays, because it hasn't been able to get the right channel to record or erase. Now I'd shot part of a video previously which I haven't processed or edited yet, but it had to do with a couple capacitors which I thought powered the relays, and they were 10 microfarad capacitors, and I had noticed that it kind of showed in the PDF manual that those were mounted up here at the top side of the board, and I looked on this thing and they were actually mounted to the underside of the PCB, which was kind of unexpected. So I've already replaced these with smaller 10 microfarad ones. But that didn't really seem to resolve the issue at all. So then I kind of talked to that guy who had been helping me a little bit, and we were kind of thinking the relays themselves might be the issue, and he sort of mentioned that at least on these early preamps that have the RA40S model number as opposed to the later ones that are AR40S, that these early ones you can actually remove the relays and swap them around, because the relays themselves are actually in sockets. I've already swapped those around, and you would kind of assume that the issue might presumably, you know, transfer over to the other channel, but that wasn't actually the case when I had swapped the relays around. I still had the issue just with the right channel, so I knew the relays themselves weren't really an issue. And also, I forget if I've already mentioned this in a previous update video, but I had tried to have this preamp hooked up to the main part of the deck and the whole transport, and I had this still kind of uncovered, and I tried to run the deck and engage the record mode and just physically look at what the relays would do. So the right channel one is at the top here, and this bottom one is the left channel, and so you can see they're kind of swapped around anyway. But as I physically looked at these relays, I just noticed, you know, the relay here for the left channel would kind of engage just fine, and this little part would slide over as it's supposed to, and the other one wouldn't really move at all. So that was an indication that that relay, or that portion of the circuitry, wasn't being energized. So next I was kind of wondering about the micro switches themselves, as far as if there might be an issue with the switches, well, the right switch itself. I mean, as I said before, I mean, they both still click as a micro switch should, so if there's any issue with the switch itself, it might just be a soldering thing. And another thing is, I'm not too sure if the switches are actually normally open or normally closed. So that's another thing I might need to research possibly. So then the guy who was kind of helping me sort of told me to use a jumper cable with the alligator clips to sort of jump the contacts together of the one switch, where the wires were actually connected, but I wasn't too sure what that was actually supposed to be doing, based on the fact that I didn't know if the switches were normally open or normally closed. But just to continue from there, I'm slightly suspecting that there may be a few capacitors that are supposed to power the circuitry for the relays, presumably, and that might be what's causing the issue of having the relay not energizing. So I'm kind of suspicious about that as far as what to do next. And also I've kind of gone through the schematic with the whole PDF manual I've got, and it's not that easy to follow, exactly where the relays connect to, but there are at least a few capacitors within a close proximity to the relays themselves. I don't know exactly how much voltage is supposed to be going to the relays and all the different contacts underneath, because there are a lot of areas of different PCB boards labeled with different negative voltages and things like that. So another thing that comes to mind is, as I did look through that PDF service manual, I did see a lot of negative voltages indicated at different test points, I suppose, on the PCBs. So I was wondering if those negative voltages mentioned might be an indication that some of the germanium transistors in here might be kind of PNP, which would mean the polarity's reversed, that it's got a positive ground. I'm not too sure about that, to be quite honest, but that might be a possibility of why those negative voltages were labeled like that. So anyhow, there's at least a couple different sets of capacitors, as I said before. So you've got these green capacitors next to the relays there. Then another set of capacitors that are kind of duplicates are these 200 microfarad capacitors rated for 50 volts, just the electrolytic ones here. I've kind of just labelled these with numbers to keep track of some of the capacitors I haven't yet replaced. So yeah, I'm kind of just trying to figure out which capacitors might provide power again. And I think this light bluish purple one here that's a replacement one, just because I was able to find one of those at the electronics place that sells kind of surplus components and things, so I just replaced that one a while back for the hell of it. And furthermore, that guy said there could be other slight issues, an issue with the record head maybe, or if there's say a broken wire under the head cover going to one of the heads or something like that. But yeah, it's still too hard to really diagnose that with complete certainty. And also another thing probably said in an earlier video was when I would first engage the machine into the record mode, every once in a while I would just see this right lamp just barely come on right as I engaged the machine, and then it would just immediately go out. It seems like more recently I didn't really even see the light come on even once. It just wouldn't illuminate at all, so I don't know if that helps explain the issue, if it's a capacitor that just had some kind of voltage spike left in it that might have illuminated that for a split second, and then now it's possibly gone completely open, or if it is an actual contact or solder issue or something like that. But yeah, I'm sure this is ridiculously boring, so I just wanted to get that update out and So I suppose that's about it for the update, and I'll probably edit in a couple other things, as I said. So hopefully we can get this resolved before too long. This is just a Google image here of that. This is the whole record amplifier board pretty much. And I've also got my Hi-Fi Engine PDF file here for the service manual of the 4010S. I've also done research on this tape heads forum with all the Teac stuff, recording issues, so along with the relays there's a couple capacitors that connect to the relays, I think. So I found information out about that. So someone mentioned these two capacitors here, 136, 37, 10 microfarad. The ones in mine were actually rated for 50 volts. However, I was trying to find those on the schematic here. And the interesting thing is, there's a page toward the very end here that shows those capacitors mounted on the top of the board. And I couldn't actually find them on mine. And that's because they seem to be mounted to the underside of the board on mine. So they're 136 and 137, so they're these two right here. And the weird thing, to some degree, was I kind of saw mounting holes for these through the top side of the board, but the capacitors themselves weren't actually in place here. They were on the underside of the board, so I'll show you that. So this schematic here is the underside of the record amplifier, the main board, and it shows at the top that pretty much this half of it is the right channel and the other half is the left. So you can kind of see that there. The capacitors are just mounted, you know, one here and one here kind of. So this is the underside of it, and I need to fix the white balance again. Now I've already replaced these, but the original capacitors were still just soldered right here on the underside on these different pads here. That PDF thing, it would be oriented this way, so then that would make the right channel one down here. And I kind of saw a lead on the one original capacitor that appeared to kind of be broken, like one of the leads broke off. So I don't know if it was always like that, but that possibly could have prevented the right channel from working in the record mode. As I said, the original ones were rated for 50 volts. These replacement ones I have are smaller, and they're actually rated for 63 volts. So at least I've gotten those replaced, and I've tested for continuity across the traces, and that seems to be good, so now I can actually try to test this out. And it seems like the negative lead of the capacitor connects to these areas here where the relay contacts are on that trace right there, and that's how the thing was for the negative end of this capacitor too. Kind of goes along right here. So I suppose some portion of the relay could have to hold a charge from that capacitor, or at least a voltage. And if those original capacitors were bad, or even if that one was in fact broken, I suppose that could have prevented it all from working in the record mode. So bye for now.